Lightning McQueen prepares for the Piston Cup, repeating to himself, "I am speed. I eat losers for breakfast." As he exits his trailer, the crowd goes wild, and Lightning feeds off their applause. The race begins. Lightning is very confident and arrogant. He is a rookie who has proven to have enormous talent, which makes him feel even more untouchable, as if he has the world at his feet. Halfway through the race, he is in third place, just behind the King, a racing legend, and Chick Hicks. The King is a veteran, and this Piston Cup is his last. In order to gain an advantage, McQueen avoids going to the pits to change his tires. His team tells him he needs the change, but he ignores them, believing he knows better. The last lap arrives, and McQueen is in the lead. He is about to win, but just then, one of his tires blows out, and then another. The King and Chick Hicks get closer. McQueen does his best to keep going, but with no tires, he is really slow. All three are approaching the finish line, and in a desperate move, McQueen sticks out his tongue to try to close the gap, but the result is a tie between the three, something never seen before. It is then announced that they will have to compete in a playoff race the following week to see who will win the prestigious Piston Cup. After the race, McQueen boasts that he did it all by himself, offending his team, who quit after hearing that he didn't appreciate them. Lightning is too arrogant to care. He simply enjoys the attention of the cameras. The King approaches McQueen, congratulates him, and offers him advice as a veteran who has won many races and has plenty of experience. He tells him that he needs to wake up and start making better decisions, that this is not an individual sport, and he can't win without a team of experts behind him. However, Lightning stops listening and begins imagining himself receiving Dinoco's sponsorship and having all the success that the King has had. He completely ignores the advice the veteran offers. Lightning McQueen is a talented rookie, but his arrogance and self-centeredness are very evident. He is definitely an excellent racer, but his inflated perception of himself becomes a hindrance to his own success. For example, Lightning thinks he knows more than his team of mechanics, who have many more years of experience. He ignores their advice, and because of this, he doesn't win the championship. Furthermore, instead of recognizing that they were right, McQueen remains firm in his idea that he doesn't need anyone to win. He also feels superior to the King, who has been winning championships for years. He doesn't pay attention to him because he is drowned in his own vanity. Mac, Lightning's trailer, transports him to California for the playoff race. However, fatigue starts to get the better of Mac, and by accident, he ends up losing Lightning halfway. Lightning wakes up and finds himself in the middle of an unknown road. He tries to catch up with Mac, but ends up going down an old road and arriving at Radiator Springs, a small, forgotten town. Lightning's entry into Radiator Springs is dramatic and chaotic. He causes a ruckus and destroys much of the main road in town. The sheriff arrests him and takes him to court, where the judge will sentence him for all the damage he caused. When Judge Doc Hudson enters and sees the defendant, he stops for a moment, surprised, and shows his disdain for him. This is because Lightning is a race car, and Doc knows well how arrogant and difficult they can be. He sentences Lightning to perform community service. He must pave the road he damaged, and only then can he return to California for his race. Lightning tries to avoid his punishment, arguing that as a race car, he shouldn't have to repair the street of an old town. However, Doc, who is an authority and leader in the community, is unimpressed by Lightning's accomplishments. Instead, he challenges him to a race. If Lightning wins, he can go free without having to repair the street. The rest of the town thinks this is a bad idea. Sally, a very smart Porsche, tells Doc that this will never fix the street, but Doc is confident. They are ready to race on a dirt track. The race consists of a single lap. McQueen taunts Doc, saying he could never beat him. Lightning starts his engine and shows off, and the people of Radiator Springs are surprised. The race starts, and McQueen takes off at full speed, while Doc doesn't even move forward. He just waits. Lightning is close to finishing the race when he comes around a curve in the dirt and tries to maneuver but can't control his turn, ending up falling into a cactus-filled cliff. Doc asks the town's tow truck, Mater, to get him out of there. Soon, Lightning is back, repairing the road, more angry than ever. His pride has been badly wounded. The next day, the people of Radiator Springs wake up to find that the road is much smoother, and they are thrilled. It is still not finished, but Lightning's work looks amazing. Doc is surprised and looks for McQueen. He finds him on the track from the previous day's race, practicing the lap that defeated him. He tries again and again, but is unsuccessful. Doc watches him, and something inside him changes. He approaches and offers advice on how to make the curve, but Lightning just mocks him and calls him a crazy old man. That night, Mater invites Lightning for a drive. They both have a good time and start to connect. At the end of the night, Mater tells Lightning that he is his best friend. These words shock Lightning. He has never had a best friend, or even someone he could call a friend. As they say goodbye, Lightning's attitude begins to change. He starts to see Radiator Springs and its inhabitants in a different light. The next morning, Lightning wakes up with his usual ambitions, feeling the pressure to leave Radiator Springs to compete and win the Piston Cup. He looks for the sheriff and Doc to tell them he has to get going. While waiting for them, he enters a cluttered and abandoned garage, and there, in a forgotten corner, he sees something that takes his breath away: the Piston Cup trophy. Lightning approaches and reads the inscription, which says, Hudson Hornet, champion of 1951. He can't believe it. Doc has a Piston Cup. Confused, he explores the garage and discovers 2 other cups. Doc Hudson had won 3 championships. McQueen is speechless. At that moment, Doc enters, angry that McQueen entered his garage without permission. Lightning expresses his admiration for him, saying that now he understands he is the fabulous Hudson Hornet. He asks him to give him all his advice. He is anxious to hear the wisdom this former champion can offer, but Doc simply replies that he already did, and McQueen ignored him. McQueen says he's impressed with the trophies, but Doc replies, all I see are empty cups, and shuts the door. Sally, the Porsche, invites Lightning for a ride. She takes him on new roads with breathtaking views that amaze him. He asks Sally how a fancy Porsche like her ended up in a town like Radiator Springs. She tells him she used to be a successful lawyer in Los Angeles, but realized she wasn't happy, so she started traveling the country, trying to find something else, until one day she stopped in this town and was captivated. She tells him she stayed because she fell in love with the place, the beautiful views, and the friends she made, something hard to find anywhere else. Lightning hasn't fully learned this lesson yet. Sally explains that Radiator Springs wasn't always this run down. There was a time when it was full of life and tourists, when Route 66 was the highway everyone traveled on. She tells him, 40 years ago, cars traveled the country differently. They didn't cut corners, but moved with the terrain, with its ups, downs, and curves. Cars didn't hit the road just to go fast, but to enjoy the ride. The world was different. Now everyone travels in a straight line just to save 10 minutes of travel time, and they don't know what they're missing. Sally tells him she would have loved to see the town in its glory days. Lightning thanks her for the ride, saying that sometimes slowing down and enjoying the moment can be more rewarding than going at top speed. Lightning tends to live at top speed, believing that this will bring him satisfaction. But he stumbles upon Radiator Springs, a community that enjoys quietness, friendship, and the little things in life. It's a radical change for him, but the inhabitants of this simple town seem to live richer lives than his own. Radiator Springs seems to teach McQueen that true wealth doesn't come from going fast and getting there first, but from enjoying the scenery along the journey. Lightning goes to the circuit and finds a surprise: Doc Hudson equipped with his racing car. Lightning hides so Doc won't see him and waits anxiously to see if Doc will start racing. Doc hesitates, unsure whether to do it or not, but finally dares to start his engine and takes off at full speed. He dominates the track with total mastery. Lightning watches him with admiration. The key moment arrives, the corner that McQueen hasn't been able to make, but it's no problem for Doc. He manages it with fluidity and style. Lightning is left speechless. Doc finishes the lap and sighs. He's still got it. Lightning approaches him and starts to tell him how amazing he is, but Doc doesn't want to hear it. Lightning asks him why someone as talented as him would quit racing in his prime, and this causes old pain to resurface in Doc. Indignant, he asks, "You think I quit?" He shows him an old newspaper announcing a crash he had in '54. Doc had to retire for a while to recover, but when he was ready to race again, the racing world turned its back on him. They told him he was history and forgot him. Doc tells him, "I still had a lot to give, but they wouldn't let me show it." Hurt by the rejection, Doc chose to retire from racing and take refuge in Radiator Springs, where he was welcomed and loved without them knowing about his successes or failures. McQueen tells him he's not like the rest of the race cars, but Doc replies, "When was the last time you cared about anything but yourself? The people in this town are good people. They care about each other, and I don't want them to trust someone they can't count on." The next morning, everyone wakes up to find the road completely repaired. McQueen worked on it all night, and now it looks amazing. Now Lightning is free to leave for his race in California. However, he decides to stay a little longer as there are some things he wants to do. He starts visiting each of the businesses in town. He gets new tires from Luigi, a new paint job from Ramon, and gas from Fillmore. But there is still one more person to surprise. When Sally shows up, Lightning has everything ready. He gives the signal, and everyone turns on their newly repaired neon lights while music starts to play. The town shines like it did in its best days, looking like a paradise full of life. Sally is amazed. Her dream has come true. Lightning and Sally are happily together, falling more and more in love when their moment is interrupted. Press helicopters and reporters flood the town. They announce that they have found Lightning. Surrounded by the press and separated from Sally, Mac informs him that they need to leave immediately if he wants to make it to the Piston Cup. Lightning approaches Sally, wanting to express what he feels for her, but the words don't come out. Sally interrupts him and thanks him, not only for fixing the street, but for everything he did for them. She says, "Good luck in California. I hope you find what you're looking for," and walks away. Lightning gets into his trailer and sets out on the road to the Piston Cup. Then a reporter comes up to Doc and thanks him for giving her the information about Lightning McQueen's location. Lightning sees this and gets mad at him. The whole town watches as Lightning leaves and returns to his former life, leaving them behind. They all return to their homes and turn off the neon lights that just a few minutes ago had filled them with joy. In California, the Piston Cup is about to start. The King, Strip, and McQueen are preparing for the playoff. The King, a veteran, will retire from racing after this cup. Everyone respects him, and he will be missed. It's the end of an era. Lightning repeats to himself, "I am Speed. I eat losers for breakfast. I am Speed." However, this time his mind isn't focused on winning the race. Instead, it's filled with memories of his friends from Radiator Springs. Every time he tries to convince himself of the need to be fast, a sweet and serene memory invades his mind, relaxing him and pulling him away from his obsession with winning. As he exits his trailer, the crowd goes wild, but Lightning pays no attention. He goes to Mac, who is now acting as his crew chief since his previous team had quit. The race begins. McQueen tries to keep up with the others, but he isn't concentrating. He keeps thinking about Sally. At that moment, his crew chief says, "I didn't come all this way to see you lose." However, this isn't Mac. It's none other than the fabulous Hudson Hornet. Doc came to support him, and with him are the rest of the inhabitants of Radiator Springs. Doc motivates Lightning, and he now looks like a completely different racer, dominating the track. He listens to the advice and executes it perfectly. Then the crowd at the racetrack begins to recognize Doc and identify him as the legend he is. The crowd is filled with excitement. Lap after lap, McQueen advances at full speed. Chick Hicks gets desperate and hits McQueen, knocking him off the track and onto the grass. The reporters think McQueen is out of the race, but he has learned to drive on dirt. Following Doc's advice, he manages to recover and returns to the track, taking the lead. Doc is proud. The race is about to finish. McQueen is in first place, the King is in second, and Chick is in third. Chick gets frustrated and doesn't want to be last, so he makes a catastrophic decision. He hits the King. The impact is brutal, sending him off the track and causing massive destruction. The King is badly hurt. McQueen is about to reach the finish line when he sees the screen showing the injured King. His mind goes back to the accident Doc had all those years ago, and at that moment he decides to brake just inches from the finish line. Lightning stops and everyone is paralyzed. Chick Hicks wins the race, but no one cares. Doc and the rest of the crowd watch Lightning with curiosity. McQueen, putting aside his ego, goes to the King, who asks, "What are you doing?" The rookie replies, "I think the King deserves to finish his last race." Lightning pushes him closer to the finish line. The King says, "You realize you just gave up the Piston Cup?" Lightning replies, "A grumpy old car once taught me that's just an empty cup." Doc hears this and smiles proudly. When the King, helped by Lightning, crosses the finish line, the crowd goes wild. They have never applauded so loudly. McQueen returns to his friends and everyone congratulates him, but Doc is the proudest of all. Dinoco, the King's sponsor, who is about to retire, offers Lightning a deal. He is surprised, saying that he didn't win the race, but the owner of Dinoco explains, "There is much more to racing than just winning." Being part of Dinoco was everything Lightning had dreamed of. However, when he sees his friends talking to their sponsors, a group of rusty cars, he tells the owner, "Thank you very much for the offer, but my team believed in me long before I was successful, so I'll stay with them." Lightning returns to Radiator Springs and establishes his headquarters there to enjoy life with his best friend, Mater, his girlfriend, Sally, his trainer, Doc, and the whole community of people who love him. Lightning leaves the Piston Cup behind when he realizes that there are more meaningful and satisfying aspects of life. He understands that success is not achieved alone, but with a good team behind you. He also reflects that success without sharing is worthless, and perhaps true happiness is not found in isolated personal achievement, but in enjoying the journey with good friends.